Hello, fellow cadets. This is Scott Gross Close coming from Las Vegas. And today I have a special SMA alumni guest. Victor, introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. This is Victor Crane, graduated from SMA in 1970.
Ooh.
Truth, duty, honor.
Ooh, 1970. I didn't realize you were that much older than me.
Yeah, I just turned 70.
Well, I just turned 65. I'm from the class of 75.
Yeah.
But, I every day when I check my Facebook, I, of course, go to the Facebook page for SMA. And it's always fun to see pictures and memories and things. So I thought, while you're here visiting this afternoon, and brought to Irv and I some jalapeno cornbread.
There you go.
You made that?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I think I had some, you brought some previously, and it was really good.
Oh, same stuff.
I'm looking forward to that. I haven't eaten lunch, so maybe we'll grab lunch in a bit. But at any rate, I haven't been back to Stanton.
Oh, you know it's Stanton.
Yeah, I know it's Stanton, but the upper class, Staunton.
Oh, I always heard that was because there was when they were writing Colonel Stanton's name down in the book, they just stuck a U in there. It was by accident. They misspelled his name.
I didn't know that. You mean the whole city is a mistake?
Basically, that's what it comes down to, I think.
I had never heard that.
Oh. Where's Weiss when you need him?
Oh, he would have known. He was amazing. I used to call him about once a year. I'd call him Walter Boyd when he was working over at Fork Union, and of course Major Weiss when he retired. And he was
a colonel, wasn't he, when he retired?
Colonel, yeah. He would say, hello, and Major Weiss, this is Scott Gross Close. And amazingly, just immediately he would say, oh, well, how are your parents, Dean and Opal? Now, I'm thinking he met them twice, maybe, graduation and maybe one other time.
Back in 74 or 75.
Yeah, 40 years ago. And he would ask how mom and dad are doing. It just blew me away. And not mom and dad, but Dean and Opal.
Yeah.
And
right.
That was, he had that incredible memory. I remember one time we wadeered him during a government class. And just to check if he really had a photographic memory. And we asked him to pick a word, look at a page, and then shut the book, and each one of us would pick a word. Or say something like 5 lines down, 4th word over. And we're all sitting there watching it. He would get it right every time.
Wow.
Scary.
Yeah. He, when my younger brother took his class, and Steve Crane went to SMA also.
What year?
He graduated in 78. Is that right?
No, 68.
74.
Oh, 74. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
74.
74. And I went up to visit him on Thanksgiving that year of 1970. And I said, Steve, did Major Weiss know what seat I was in and what day or period? He goes, yes. I walked right in there, and he says, Steve Crane, your brother sat right over there in 1969 and 70. He did okay. I hope you do as well as he did.
Nice. Yeah.
So Steve checked with me if that was really this, and it was where I sat on that class.
Oh, my first day, he said, Mr. Gross Close, that you have some big shoes to fill, because that seat is where John Dean sat.
Oh.
And, of course, in 1970s, that wasn't that popular.
Right.
But, yeah, no, it was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, hell of a guy.
Yeah, amazing. I did get to meet, excuse me, I'm clearing my throat. I did get to meet Barry Goldwater Sr., who lived in the Westchester above a friend of mine, and I actually bought in 1983 an IMTS car phone. Of course, there was no cell that belonged to Barry Goldwater Jr. And it was a 9800 megahertz that only worked in Washington D.C. and Dallas, and you got an interconnect, and had to pay, I think, 20 cents for the connection and then the length of time. But you just got back from a trip back east.
I was halfway back east. I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's almost the center of the states.
Oh, I thought you went up into Maine and saw the trees.
No, that was on the plan, but my 94-year-old mother didn't want to go. So We ended up staying in Tulsa the whole time.
Well, she's seen trees.
Well, she was from Vermont originally, so yeah, you're right.
She's seen trees. I remember in the fall, I always wondered if my parents came down to visit me or to go up on the Skyline Drive and have dinner at the Big Meadows Lodge. Or it was so beautiful, that Blue Ridge Parkway and the Skyline Drive is just stunning.
Indeed, it was. There probably still is.
No, I used to ride my motorcycle up there. I went back to Stanton in 1977 and started a music company. And so it was...
On Main Street or where?
Yeah, Beverly. The building I had was 9, 11, 13, and 15 East Beverly Street. And mine...
9/11?
9 was a finance company. 11 was a door that went into an elevator. There was 38 offices on 3 floors above. That used to be the C&O Railroad. It's called the Witts Building, right on middle of Beverly Street. And then my store and Schwarzschild's dress shop. But it was fun because I was right across the street from the Beverly Diner. And, I used to go there all the time and eat their daily special and pie and Mama Thomas. So it was fun going back after being a cadet for 3 years and being a resident for 3 years. It was different.
Yeah.
I slept a lot later. It was fun. But are you going to the reunion next year?
I haven't decided yet. It kind of depends on how my mom's health is going.
Kind of with me with Irv's, kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
He's 104 and having a little issue with his legs standing up. But, I sure would like to go. The reunion I went to last, I hate to say this, was 1987.
Got me beat. I haven't been to one yet. I was going to go this one, but then COVID showed up and kind of preempted everything. So,
yeah, for everybody.
Yeah. And I'm not making that one. Of course, it wasn't around anyway.
Yeah. When I was in band company in 72, 3, 4, and 75, and our lieutenant my senior year was Bill Sawdy.
Bill what?
Bill Sawdy, Sawdey. Bill was lived in Las Vegas, and his father owned 2 Baskin-Robbins stores, one on East Charleston, one on West Charleston. So when I moved out here, we hung out and got to know each other and ended up getting into business together. We actually opened an ice cream parlor over in Decatur and Twain, kind of a big restaurant, 120-seater.
Wow.
And, we had our big ice cream machine, and we had so many fun experiences.
Did you have waitresses there then?
We in sports, in striped jerseys with whistles. It was all sports themed, Iditarod ices. The Sundays were the boxing Sundays, welterweight, 1 scoop, middleweight, heavyweight, the TKO. We had a Super Bowl, which at that time there was 28 NFL teams, so we had 28 scoops of ice cream in the Super Bowl. And lunch specials were like the hook, line, and sinker, fish sandwich, not pop fries, Olympic rings, onion rings. So it was fun. We had a really, really good experience with that. Bill passed away, I think, about 3 or 4 years ago now. Had a heart attack. He had lost his sight from some diabetes. But an interesting story for anybody in our class range. If they remember Gary Grago, he was known as Indian. Bill, and we were in the same class. So,
why was he known as Indian?
Well, because he had, Native American.
Okay.
So he lived up in Northern California, like Sacramento area. Well, Bill graduated in 75. Engine graduated in 75 with me. And Bill goes up to visit Engine and falls in love with his mother and gets married.
Wow.
So now Engine is Bill's son-in-law. That was an interesting dynamic. And Bill spent... Go ahead.
And that was in California?
Yeah, they met her, but of course, when they got married, they moved back here to Las Vegas. Bill had a very successful business called Personalized Pool Service. He did the maintenance and cleaning on my pools for probably 20 years. So it was kind of fun. once in a while when I had a technical issue, they'd send engine out. He was the mechanic, to put the new pumps on and things. And so we got to reminisce a lot. As a matter of fact, I bought 2 class rings from Jocelyn's, one in white gold and one in yellow gold. And about a year before Bill died, he says, would you consider selling me one of those rings? He says, I want to give something to my son, not engine, but his in marriage adopted son. So I gave him my white gold diamond ring it was blue stone with the gold cross sabers on it. And you've seen me wear the gold one.
Yeah.
But as a matter of fact, I just saw in a recent post that Jocelyn's is reoffering class rings right now for SMA.
Really?
Yeah, I think they're only in yellow gold, 10 karat or 18 karat. It was $465 and $300 and something for the lesser expensive.
I'm trying to think of what it was when I bought one for my senior year. I think it was about
what, 40, 50 bucks?
I think it was about $100.
Right.
It was in the monies that I didn't have.
Who had money? Yeah. I'm sure do you remember how much allowance you got?
$5.
5?
A week.
Yeah, of course. I got 7.
You're spoiled.
Well, inflation. Early 70s were highly inflationary, like today. But did you know Odell, the barber down underneath?
Sure.
Yeah,
I got many haircuts down there.
Oh, Odell was a drinker.
Yeah.
Oh my God, an alcoholic. And you'd go down to get a haircut, and there'd be a sign on the door, Odell's out sick, and we all knew what that meant. The problem was that when he came back, his hands had the DTs, he was shaking, and the haircuts he gave were pretty memorable.
Yeah, he didn't have to do much when you cut it off. He just kind of scraped it along the side.
Oh yeah, no, I got a couple of bad haircuts there, and that's hard. As short as it was to make a bad haircut out of that, but Odell, man, he clipped my ear one time, and it started bleeding. And yeah. That South Barracks, was Major Johnson there teaching U.S. history?
Yep.
He was right when you walked in the South Barracks and turned right, it was the first classroom on that level in the corner. It had windows. And
I think study hall was next to it or something.
Yeah. He was amazing. He'd come in, I think my first class with him was maybe 9 in the morning, and he would have he would have glass with about 4 or 5 inches of something white. And nobody said anything. The faculty, the kids, nothing. But Major Johnson had a tendency to have a sip every once in a while. But he was a great teacher. You'd walk in and he'd have a record player playing the Andrews Sisters. We're going to learn something from 1940, something historical. And he just had a very comfortable way. I thought he didn't have enough discipline because the kids would be jumping around and acting like animals sometimes. And it was one of the larger classes.
I think he did yield a paddle once or twice, too.
Well, I'm sure with you he had to. I was the angel, so yeah. I did get walloped 3 times in my 3 years. The first time by Captain Talbot, the French teacher. Mm-hmm. And it was my freshman year, and I didn't do my reading, my required French homework. And there was only 4 of us in the class. It's hard to hide behind 4 kids, 3 other kids. So he knew within 5 minutes of the bell ringing that I had not done my homework. And, of course, it was September, so we were wearing our summer light pants.
Wool.
Yeah, not the wool ones. These were they might have been wool. They were really thin, though, with the black stripe down it. And, he made me come up and bend over and grab my ankles. And, of course, I was homesick, just getting used to, the things around the campus and wearing the uniform and things. And he faked twice. He'd rear back and come up and just barely touch the back of my thighs. And I thought that was kind of cruel. He was into it.
Drag it out.
Yeah, no, but he did. He walloped me. And for 2 or 3 days, I had probably a half-inch welt across both of my thighs. And but I will tell you, for the next 2 years, at the CQ, call to quarters at 7 o'clock to 8:40. At 7 o'clock when that bell rang, that French book was the first one to hit the desk. And so I guess it worked.
Motivation.
Another time, I got up a little late, and because we were in band company, we were generally the last ones to march into the mess hall, but we had to be back in our barracks and getting ready for inspection in class like everybody else. So I was a little late coming back from breakfast, and I had to make it to my first class. So I left my room with a bed unmade and some things awry, and they did a surprise inspection. I got 5 demerits, room and gross, and so I had to go to Bomfoy, who was responsible for me actually attending SMA. I went just real quick in 7th, 8th, 9th grade. This thing, 9th grade, I think. I was getting ready to go to high school there in New Carrollton, Maryland, and some circumstances came up with my the school I was going to go to, busing. They were going to send me down to the D.C. line, and so I went to the guidance counselor and picked up a couple of books on military schools and took it home. And Stanton won. They had a beautiful book. Remember that nice thick book with all the pictures of the indoor swimming pool and the indoor rifle range and the football team and the barracks and the uniforms. And boy, they just, made it look like...
very impressive.
It was summer camp.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait. This is going to be fun. Yeah. I got a little surprised. But we went down in sometime around like July for a tour of the campus, and we met Bomfoy. And boy, he was just the nicest guy. I looked up, nice crisp uniform, good-looking guy. Had those sunglasses he wore. And he took us around campus and, virtually made it, where I couldn't say no to go there, even though it was expensive. I think the tuition was around $2,700 plus books and uniform. But that's $1972. And for fun, I called Fork Union not long ago. Well, I looked up Fork Union on the internet. And for a boarding school year without books and uniforms, it was $28,000. So you think, a 4-year high school is $100,000. That's a lot to swing. Mm-hmm. That's more than some college, local universities and things. So, but at any rate, I went to Bomfoy's office with this, gross room and gross, and he had that paddle board that said Board of Education with a couple of holes in it, and he walloped me pretty good too. Yeah. I'm not sure that stuck as well as the French thing, because that was in private, and I could get a tear in my eye and stand outside his door for a few minutes and compose myself. But getting the whipping in front of the other kids, and having to sit down on it and suck it up was
well, Scott, there's a restaurant here in town that you can get a whipping at if you want one.
What's that?
Hofbrauhaus.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
You buy. I was taking some friends from out of town there the other day, and you buy a shot of Jägermeister, and blonde lady's walking around with a big old paddle in her hand, and you want that Jägermeister. You get to drink it, and then you get a swat. And she bends you over the table, spreads your legs, checks your pockets, makes sure you don't have a phone back there or anything, your wallet. And if you have a shirt tail hanging over, she'll have you pull that up so it's not in the way. And then she taps you a few times real nice and light and gentle. And you think, man, that's not too bad. And you kind of take a peek over your shoulder, and she'll help you put your head back forward. And then that's when the big one comes.
Oh, my
Whack!
God.
You can hear it through the whole restaurant.
Wow. I've been here 40 years in Las Vegas, and in the old days, you used to have to pay a lot for that.
Yeah.
Now they're giving it away free with shots?
Well, you get to pay for the shot.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that restaurant. I've eaten at the Hofbrauhaus in Munich on the Marienplatz a couple times, and the food's so much better. The Hoffenpfeffer.
Although
rabbit.
Their hamburger's really good there.
Oh.
Cheeseburger, that's half pork and half beef.
Yeah, Okay. Well, I'm not a real beer drinker, so I don't go over there for the draft because
Right.
I hear they have good beer.
Yeah.
But so, at any rate, when you were in Stanton, what are some of the places you remember? Some of the stores, restaurants.
Holiday Inn,
Huh?
Pizza Hut. They just opened up. I think it's my junior or senior year that they opened up.
Right.
And usually the swim team, I was on the swim team, and coach would take us down there on like once a week or once every couple of weeks and
Really?
buy us some pizza. Yeah.
Was that
Coach Weaver?
Coach Reaver? I'm trying to remember when I was there. It was a Hispanic guy. It started with an R. I remember he was kind of looking for people that had marijuana. He'd breathe down my nose. I remember him saying that. Can't remember his name. I'm sure somebody listening will make post a comment.
He taught Spanish, and I know who you mean.
Romero, I can't remember. You know who?
I ended up running into him. Ended up going in ROTC out at Tulane, and one of my first, or the second midshipman cruise I had to go on. I was on an amphibious warfare ship with the Marines, and we're on a LST, just a landing craft.
Mm-hmm.
We're out of sight of land, and this same guy that you were just talking about standing there, and I look over at him and I go, I know that guy. And sure enough, it was the gentleman we were talking about. And he was, as part of, because he was an ROTC instructor, that was one of the deals. They give him training and stuff. So he was out there observing everything that was going on. But it's kind of funny to run into him on a LST off the coast of Virginia.
Yeah, when I was in my music store, I used to get some of the teachers that still live there come by, Gibson and Graham, McCracken, the Latin teacher.
Right.
Yeah, he was an interesting character.
Yeah.
He came in one day and he says, you ever seen Marcel Marceau? You know, the pantomime, French pantomime. And I said, no. He says, well, I've got an extra ticket if you'll drive, because he didn't have a driver's license. I said, okay. So the day of the event, I drove over to his house, and he invited me in. Very small apartment, but he had his oven door open in the kitchen. No, he had books in there. It was a bookshelf. I guess he didn't cook it all, and he had all these books stashed inside the oven, all over the house. I enjoyed the Marcel Marceau. It was fun.
Yeah.
My first time seeing him. But
Where do they hold that in Stanton?
No, it wasn't in Stanton. It was in Charlottesville at the University Theater. It was 10,000 people there. It was like a concert series. And I tell you, one other guy that used to come in on a regular basis is Colonel Landers, the reading/typing teacher. His class was down by the canteen underneath Memorial Hall. And he used to smoke these cigarettes, and the ash would be like 3 inches of ash. And we'd all be trying to focus on, doing our 60 words a minute and learning. But you were just so distracted because you kept looking at that cigarette in his mouth. And as he'd talk, it would move. And we just kind of were anxious for that big ash to fall off. Well, I had a rare piano in my store. It was a brand new 7'1" Börsendorfer from Austria. It was a very expensive piano. I got it by default when a dealer in Gadsden, Alabama ordered it, and the guy passed away before I got there.
Oh.
And he had put half down, non-refundable. So I bought the piano for half price and brought it to Stanton and kept it for a couple years.
How did you find out that piano was down there in Alabama or where it was in those days?
Well, I had, when I left Stanton, I went to Campbell University down in North Carolina, Bowie's Creek, North Carolina. And during summer break, my dad said, you have to get a job. And I had trouble finding a job. Nobody would hire me. I tried to be in that photomat booth where it has a window on each side and people drive up and drop off their film. They wouldn't even hire me. Have you ever Z'd out a register? Have you ever closed down, opened up, to alarm, all of that stuff? No. So I kind of conned my way into a job as a piano salesman for Jordan Kitt's Music. And one of the salesmen at that company was this guy that when I left and opened up the store in Stanton, he went down to Gadsden, Alabama and opened a store. So we kind of knew each other. We were in the business. And when he got stuck with this exotic world-class piano in a very small town, you give an example to the current price of a 7'1" ebony polished Bösendorfer is about $185,000. So it's significantly more expensive than Steinway. That was an elite piano. Well, at any rate, I bring this beautiful piano to my 13 East Beverly Street and put it up in the concert hall. I had some chandeliers in a 200-seat concert hall. And Colonel Landers came in one day, and I said, "Hey, Colonel, come up here, and I'll play you a song on this, really classy piano." And for about a week later, people started coming in, and they'd walk in the store, and I'd say, "Hi, how are you?" They'd say, "Oh, we're just passing through, but we'd like to see the Bösendorfer." And I'm thinking, how in the hell did they know that? And this started occurring maybe once a day. Somebody would come in and they'd say, we're driving to Rhode Island on 81, and we pulled off on Greenville Avenue, or whatever that, I think it was Greenville Avenue. And there was a trailer, a single-wide trailer with a flag out in the front. It was the Stanton Welcome Center. And Colonel Landers was the guy sitting in there, again, with a big cigarette and a long ash. And they'd say, "What's fun to see in Stanton?" And he's, among other things, he'd say, "Oh, you have to go by keyboard centers down on Beverly Street and see, this exotic piano." And I never made any sales from it because these people were, traveling through. But it was amazing how many people came in from his recommendation. So after a couple weeks, I went and ordered him a big fruit basket and sent it out there to the trailer. And again, we got him to thank him for all the marketing and publicity he did for me.
So this piano, what makes it so special?
Oh, well, don't get me started. It's all about the 180-year-old Bavarian spruce that's chopped and air-cured for 11 years.
Is that on the north side of the hill? Or
Yeah,
the south
exactly.
Side?
The north side where it gets less sun. And then the Grings are a little closer, right?
Yeah.
I think I've told you a few of these things. But, any rate, it was fun every once in a while to have alumni or the staff teachers come in and say hello. As a matter of fact, on my grand opening night, I think, if I remember correctly, it was February 28th, 27th, something, 1978, Gibson came by with his wife. And you know what? He came up and shook my hand, and he had tears in his eyes. And it was an emotional moment. He was so rough on me at the school, gross clothes, and hear him across the field. But to have him, feel so proud of me coming back and doing that, it touched me.
Yeah.
I remember that moment.
Gibby.
Yeah, Gibby. He was great. Yeah. Another one I liked, and again, I had a very personal moment with him, which was kind of unusual, was the biology teacher. Yeah, there in Memorial Hall. In North Barracks, right across from Baumfoy's office was Thomas, Major Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
He was a pig farmer, I think. And he was gentle, and he was a good teacher. And one day, I think he was the officer of the day, or for some reason, they sent a messenger over to get me, and I went and sat down in his office, and he had to tell me that my mom's brother had passed away, one of my favorite uncles. And I just remember how compassionate he was in telling me that, and making sure that I had the ability to get a train ticket up to Maryland so I could go to the funeral, and he just really cared, But I was telling about Major Johnson, the history teacher. In Stanton, I used to play the organ any place I could to publicize my company, and so I joined many organizations, the Elks and Lions Club. But the Elks, when I became a BPOE, the hailing sign. I took one of my organs and sat out there in the lodge. And on Friday night, I'd go in there and play, for 4 hours or so. And like clockwork, at 5:30 in the evening, here would come Major Johnson. Again, he never drove, so he was teaching at Fishburne, I think, up in Harrisonburg. And he would come in right exactly on the time, sit down at the bar, and then start making requests. And, of course, it was all big band stuff, which I kind of enjoyed playing. And sometimes I'd spend an extra hour that, after I would normally close. And he would sit there and drink and make requests for 3 or 4, 5 hours.
Was he a good tipper?
Oh, no. No. He never tipped. I wouldn't have taken money from him. But I did live across the street in a 3-bedroom apartment. It was in the little valley as you go down. Remember the 7-Eleven down at the bottom of the campus? Going down.
No, I don't. Out the front gate or out the back gate?
It was behind Memorial Hall, behind North Barracks, that big hill.
Oh, yeah.
There was a nursing.
Down
Don't know why I have a
hill.
cough today.
Yeah.
There was a nursing home down there.
So I was turning the other way. I was going down.
Yeah, right.
Down.
Yeah, this was a nursing. The nursing home. I had an accordion, and on Tuesday, my day off, I never had enough money for a movie left over. With $1.50 for the haircut and $3.25 for a carton of Marlboro Flip Top Red Box. 35 cents a pack. Wouldn't you like to have a truckload of those to sell today? I think it's up to $10 a carton now. But yeah,
Or higher.
yeah, I don't smoke, but back then everybody had a little. Did you smoke in military school?
No.
Okay. Well,
Hated it.
yeah, me too. I do now, but back then I smoked a pipe. Well, it was awful, but it smelled good, But I took that accordion every Tuesday down and played for some of the senior citizens.
Nice.
They'd bring them into the rec room, and I'd sit there and play Lady of Spain and, Beer Barrel Polka.
I was going to say you probably played mostly polka music.
Yeah, that's right. But before I'd leave, I'd walk around to some of the people that were bedridden, so they couldn't come in. So I'd go to their room and play them a song or two. And I remember going to the canteen, not the canteen, the supply hut, again underneath North Barracks. You walk down that staircase and you check your mail. And I got a letter one day. There was a lady that every week I kind of spent some time with in her bed, and she died. And her daughter just sent me a letter and thanked me. That it's telling me how much her mother used to talk about it, how she looked forward to Tuesdays, and she included a check for $20.
Nice.
I thought, wow, isn't that cool? That it was a lot of money to me then. That was 2.5 weeks worth of rationing. But anyway, Colonel Dye lived above me. I was on the bottom 3-bedroom floor. He was in the middle 3-bedroom floor, and then there was a 3rd floor, and it was always fun. To come in and out of the house apartment every once in a while and run into Colonel Dye. He was a real gentleman too.
Yes, he was.
Sweet guy, yeah, and his wife. Of course, I kept the noise down after 10 o'clock in my apartment. I didn't want to get demerits.
Tippy toe.
Yeah, lights out, right? Yeah, have great memories of SMA. I do sales training, and a great portion of what I teach is lessons learned at those years in SMA. I mean, if you listen to my sales training, you'd have thought I was a career military guy. It was just 3 years of my life, but it was 3 impressionable years.
Yeah.
And it's just I put a post not long ago on the Facebook site for SMA and talked about when I walk in my bathroom every morning and evening, I have a Stanton Military Academy trash can that's followed me from Stanton to New Carrollton, Maryland, to North Carolina, back to Maryland, to Las Vegas, back to Washington, D.C., back to Vegas, and 3 houses here. And that trash can, well, it was an expensive trash can. I think it was like $10 or $12 back then. It has leather on it and the gold SMA symbol. But, it's every time I look at it, it says SMA. And you can see right now in the room we're sitting in is my high school picture and my saber and a really cool antique SMA pewter plate that was hanging in Mrs. Thomas's restaurant in Dayton, Virginia. Walter Boyd would take the singing cadets over there every year, and we would have a feast. 5 meats and all the vegetables. It was a remarkable restaurant, and that was hanging on the wall. And I took my parents and my family there one year near Thanksgiving, and my dad got up and left the room, and he came back, and he had that plate in his hand. And I said, "What?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Mrs. Thomas said just put your name on the back of it, and when she passes, that it would be distributed." And my dad says, "Well, you might not be able to find Scott, so do you mind if I take it?" And again, 40-some years later, that plate is sitting there.
Yeah.
But what I was saying is when I make my bed, I do those hospital corners, under and fold, and that reminds me of SMA. And just throughout the course of a week, there's simple things that I do. When I'm putting the smiles in my socks when I'm doing the laundry.
That's funny. This past Saturday, I was a friend of my ex-wife, Carol, called her up and said, "Carol, I want to take you and Vic and your son out to dinner."
Nice.
So I meet her husband for the first time, and his name's Jim, and he was a lawyer for Coca-Cola Company. And he went to SMA, San Marcos Military Academy. But he talked about the smile and the socks.
Right? Yeah.
I said, yeah, you roll them up this way.
Right.
And then
You always had
make sure
one
you have
that wouldn't hug your leg because it was stretched out. Yeah.
So he went to another military school in another part of the country and had the same experience.
Right.
About how to fold your laundry and make it look good in the press.
Well, I often think if I had gone to public high school in the early 70s, would I have gotten many of the important things I learned that I've used in life and business over these past 4 decades. So I can't even imagine not having those experiences, even though at the moment they weren't always pleasant.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hazing. When you were a new cadet, they had that trick-or-treater beat on Halloween. They had the hazing right of becoming an old boy. You had to walk around the asphalt. You couldn't walk behind the administration building until you had been there a year.
Right.
We
I
weren't a
forgot
rat.
about that.
Yeah. So and then, of course, the trickery right before inspection. On Saturday morning, 8 or 9 o'clock. All of a sudden, you'd hear something at the transom of your door. Had those, and certainly in Memorial Hall, had those transoms above each door that you could open
North
up.
Barracks did too.
Yeah, okay. And they'd take a thumbtack and put in a can of shaving cream, and then pull it out and put their thumb over it, and then throw that, and it would hit the floor and start rolling, and it would all over the place, or the 30-second flood, half-filled trash can leaned against your door, and then knock on the door, and you'd open it, and you'd have water all over. Right? No, I remember taking bowling alley wax and putting it on a dustpan and lighting it until the first inch or two became liquid, and splotting that around the floor, and then getting on my hands and knees and
Spreading it out.
yeah. Ugh.
The rich cadets actually had a buffer.
That's right. I remember a couple of kids had the buffer, and boy, did they make hay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. Well, it seems like it's so long ago, but every once in a while I have a very vivid memory of some event there. They had the greatest dances, great bands, an incredible basketball team. I think we cheated and had postgraduates and had some solicitation of really good players, because we seemed to dominate almost anybody we played. And in football, we were our postgraduates should have been
Freshman in college.
freshmen in college, right? So we'd play the JV teams of William and Mary and some of those prestigious schools, and we were still winning, you know. So, and those guys got special treatment, you know. They got to skirt a few rules here and there because they were important to the school.
Yeah, there's some big guys there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you think 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", 7 foot. You know, it's amazing. I remember we did several parades a year. The big one was the Winchester Apple Blossom Festival, and you know,
It was freezing one night when I was there at the Apple Blossom Parade. I had to keep my mouthpiece in my pocket
yeah,
to keep it warm enough so my lips didn't stick to it.
right. Was it drum and bugle corps, right?
That was trombone, regular marching
Oh,
band.
you did a marching band.
Yeah.
Oh no, our concert band wasn't good enough to play in public. The school had already started, you know, slowing down. How many cadets were there? The most that you can remember during
It was
your
about 660.
660.
My graduating class was about 110.
Okay, I think
And Captain Bell was
right, Major Bell for me. Yeah, no, I think we were a third that size. We were 260, 250, 260, and the graduating class, I don't know, 50 or 60 maybe. So it's much smaller. But at any rate, our concert band was pretty awful. We only played the 3 years I was there. We played the same songs. The band played on, and
the Old Gray Mare. You played that?
the Old
one?
Gray Mare, and what's that waltz? The Tennessee Waltz or
Tennessee
something?
Waltz.
Yeah,
That was one of Bell's favorites.
right. Yeah, nothing ever fun, and
We'd throw in a Sousa every once in a while.
right. Well, I played the sousaphone, the big round thing you wear, you
Right.
know, and I had never played it. So, and I played by ear. I wasn't really a sight reader, couldn't read music, and I didn't learn a lot about music in band, but I just kind of faked it, and that's how bad the band was. So every once in a while, I'd hit an off note, and you know, somebody else would hit an off note, and it was pretty hokey.
Yeah.
I remember one time for third mass, they decided for some reason not to have the full band play "Retreat into the Colors," and that day I was bugle sergeant. You know, 6:40 in the morning. You know, and going around to each of the North Barracks and South Barracks, and then at the top of the hill for the junior school. Da 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 da. Uniform of the day is Delta, you know, and so it came third mass. Well, that afternoon we had kind of an extended practice for concert band. We were getting ready for some kind of parents' weekend or something. We were working very hard to try to hit the right notes at the right time, and my lips were just puffy from that big sousaphone mouthpiece. It was huge. And, you know, when I would finish practice for about 45 minutes to an hour, my lips would buzz. You know, it was kind of an odd feeling. So I had to take the bugle and stand there and under the portico, the arches
North Barracks.
of North Barracks, and play "Retreat into the Colors" by myself. After having blown on that big big mouthpiece for at least almost 2 hours that afternoon, it was awful. I mean, it was. Have you ever heard Roseanne sing the national anthem?
Just once,
right? Yeah, just all. It was awful. You know, ducks were coming up from North Carolina. They thought it was pretty awful. But we did the Christmas parade every year in Stanton. And I do remember we didn't have a really great football field, you know, the parade field. So, and our ball team was successful and popular. A lot of the townspeople enjoyed coming to watch SMA play these kind of, you know, more,
Freshmen.
yeah, the VMI. We played VMI freshmen. I think we lost to them. But we would march down, I think it was Market Street, and right through the police would be there, and we'd march right out to Lee High School and to the field across from the Greenville Park. Mm-hmm. And always felt I had taps on my shoes, which kind of was not so good. I fell many a time. But I felt such a sense of pride marching down that hill, the drum and bugle corps blaring and the whole corps looking good. And we'd take over, half of the stands at the Lee High School. And always surprised at how many local people came out to the games, I think they even had it broadcast on the local KW. Can't remember the name of that station. I did a lot of advertising with them when I was in business. But, just a esprit de corps, I remember they paid one time for a bunch of buses, and we went over to West Virginia, and the band played for a football game we played there. And another time they bused the whole corps. I think like eight or nine buses loads, maybe more, 10. So they spent some money, and it was encouraging to have that kind of pride in the school. So
Yeah,
well, anyway, Vic, this has been fun.
it has, Scott.
You and I have become really good friends in the past year or so, and we have a third SMA alumni here in Las Vegas, David Clausen.
I believe he's in Philippines right now.
No,
isn't he?
he's home.
Oh, he's
I
back.
saw him about 2 weeks ago. He had a good time.
Yeah,
Yep, he and his wife, and we'll have to get him over here someday.
absolutely.
I forgot Inchin just passed away too. Yeah, Gary Crago, Bill's wife, Gary's mother, still keeps in touch with me, Shirley, and she called me and said that Gary had suffered a long time with cancer and finally passed about 2 months ago. So he's starting to lose a few here and there.
Yep.
Well, at any rate, buddy, let's go have some lunch.
All right, let's do it.
It's been fun.
It has.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.